Goku finally arrives on Beerus' planet to train with Vegeta and Whis. Frieza's army returns to conquer the galaxy, and suddenly out of nowhere, another god of destruction appears. All that and more in this week's episode of Dragon Ball Super. As of this moment, this is probably the best episode of Dragon Ball Super, and for one important reason. New material. We've never seen this stuff before. Sure, there's a lot of references to Battle of Gods and Resurrection F, but we never really got to see Goku arriving to the planet and the type of specific training that they did with Whis, which involves some pretty hardcore back-breaking labor, very similar to what Master Roshi did to Goku and Krillin back in the day. However, it's just a little more intense. And then, of course, when we get to the actual training session is when things just get absolutely insane. But this episode was a great mixture of training sequences, a cool sparring session, and lots of great humor. Just getting to see Goku get to Beerus' planet was funny, because he had to take a really big piss, and he was begging Whis that maybe while they were going through space, like flying at the speed of whatever Whis is going at, that he could just piss in space, which isn't that what everybody just wants to do when you're flying around in space? Just whiz at the speed of sound? Vegeta's first interaction with Goku is great because obviously he's very pissed off that Goku is there now, but it's made even funnier by the fact that when they're actually working for Beerus and Whis, they're going to have to be wearing these aprons, with Goku wearing a blue one and Vegeta wearing a pink one. This really isn't all that surprising. Vegeta has shown many times in the past that he's a big fan of pink. And this is when Goku and Vegeta's hell finally begins, because they're basically the cleaning ladies of Beerus and Whis, and they have to do some pretty extreme things, in particular the first, which is a great homage to the scene in Battle of Gods, where Beerus is sleeping in his room, which has all of these floating hourglasses, which if you touch them, they explode. They're some pretty extreme alarm clocks. So what happens is, both Vegeta and Goku have to go in there, and they have to change Beerus' sheets while he is sleeping on the old ones. This pretty much seems impossible. Basically, Vegeta says they just have to wait for the right moment. The problem is, Beerus' reflexes are absolutely ridiculous when you get very close to him, and it's extremely dangerous to do this. There's this great scene where Goku gets way too close to him, and he just swats his tail into Goku's face, which sends him flying, and instead of him hitting one of the bombs, Vegeta kicks him into a wall so that it doesn't make a big noise and cause an explosion. This is when you realize this is not going to be that easy, and damned if this isn't one of the funniest things I've seen from the series. Especially because the only way they actually get out of this is because Beerus puts Goku in this leg lock, and he lifts him up in the air and starts floating for like no particular reason other than to torture Goku and probably make Vegeta laugh on the inside, but that gives him an opportunity to change the sheets. Now, the funniest thing about this sequence is that when I saw this, I'm like, is this a part of their training? This is really ridiculous. This is, of course, the reveal when we learn that, no, this is just a part of the chores that they have to do every single day just to train. Right after this, they literally have to clean everything, the entire castle, just by scrubbing it from top to bottom. Then they have to cut all of this grass out of this field with these little sickles, and every single day, the grass is going to regrow, and they have to redo it. But then this is where we get to the intense training. This is when things get really awesome. So Goku and Vegeta are going to have to put their arms through these giant weights, which are in the shape of a box. And then they have to pick them up, and they're going to have to run with them. And they're going to have to do a lap around the entire planet. That's already pretty bad. The other thing is the path that they're walking on is going to slowly disappear, so they're going to have to keep moving. And these things are incredibly hard for them to lift. At first, Goku can't even do it. Vegeta's has been doubled because he's been training for so long, and I'm guessing Whis is using some sort of weird godlike key or magic to make these things weigh so much, because they can barely stand up straight when they're running with these things. We also get to learn a little bit more about the gaps between their powers. I like the comparison that Whis makes, where the God's power is like the giant tree of Beerus' planet, and Goku and Vegeta are just like this little, like, cut down log that they're just sitting next to a river. It really shows they have a long way to go before they get really powerful. It's insane. And I'm really curious, like, if Vegeta has godlike power now. I'm not really sure how the rules of that work, because I thought that only worked for Goku. I mean, they're going to have to explain something, especially the way things actually go down in Resurrection F. Maybe there's another loophole, maybe there's another method to attaining that godlike power that Whis is revealing to them. We're just going to have to wait and see. It's also worth noting that all of their training is done with them in their normal forms. If they go Super Saiyan, it's just going to be too easy for them. They sort of know this subconsciously, but Whis, I think, is sort of influencing it despite the fact that he's not really saying it. But he wouldn't want them to go Super Saiyan anyway during this training. This way they can sort of draw out all of their latent abilities, which will allow them to go even further and see beyond this realm that he's speaking of. Basically, he's trying to turn them into the next gods of destruction. I really think that's what's going to be going on here. We also get a condensed version of the sparring session from Resurrection of F. It's definitely not as entertaining as the movie version, but it definitely gets the job done. Basically, Whis just completely schools them, lets them know that they're just too slow and they're thinking way too much about their movements. He even steps in that pink poop again for absolutely no reason. They love using slapstick humor with Whis, and it does pay off quite a bit because he's a very goofy-looking character. There's a scene at the beginning of the episode where Goku uses his instant transmission to transport one of those time clock bombs right outside, and it blows up right in Whis' face, but it doesn't really do any damage to him, just cartoony damage. The big surprise of this episode is that we get to see the return of some new characters, some of which appeared in Resurrection of F, two of which are completely brand new to the anime version of the series. We get to see the remnants of Frieza's army are still alive and well and trying to conquer the galaxy. They're led by this little koala-looking alien who goes by the name of Sorbet, and then suddenly their ship is blasted into the remnants of space, and this signals the arrival of Champa and Vados. Yes, another god of destruction who looks very similar to Beerus, except that he's very chubby. And Vados, of course, is a female version of Whis. What could this possibly mean? They will, of course, explain in a couple of episodes. But still, their arrival is awesome. I've been waiting to see these guys for so long. And what's really interesting is they arrive at this planet, and Champa makes Vados destroy it. That's really strange to me why he's making his attendant do that. So I can't wait to see what their relationship is really like and how it's either different or similar to the one between Beerus and Whis. I'm very, very interested to learn a little bit more about these different gods of destruction. And of course, if you look at the preview for next week's episode, we're gonna get to see the return of Frieza! I'm so excited! Frieza's my favorite villain from the entire series. I love his pompous attitude, his overpowered abilities. He's just a really fun villain. I think he's the greatest Dragon Ball villain of the entire series, and I'm really interested to see if Dragon Ball Super is going to be able to top Frieza. Like, that's something that I'm really looking forward to seeing. I'm just so amped to see what they're going to do for this version. I really hope they add a lot of things to this whole Frieza arc. I actually want to see Frieza's training. Like, that's the one thing I want to see more than anything. Like, we've seen Goku and Vegeta do this crazy stuff. Let's see what Frieza is going to do. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Dragon Ball Super? This is what I've been waiting for. Some brand new material that looked really awesome. There are so many little moments from this episode that are incredibly classic and memorable to me, and I've only seen the episode once, and I loved the art design of Beerus' planet more than ever now, because a lot of the times in the movie version, we're only there for just a little bit, but now we're finally starting to get into the inner workings, and the place looks absolutely gorgeous at night. That scene where Whis is hanging out by the river with the oracle fish and discussing the powers of the gods and Vegeta and Goku was just very nice and ominous and got me really pumped up about their training. Their training sequence in particular was just fantastic and really interesting because seeing them struggle with those weights that didn't really look that big really shows that they have a long way to go and that they are training at this level that we've never really seen before. And that's a big accomplishment because Dragon Ball training has always been really intense. They've always found a way to make it more crazier than next time. And it's really cool because Vegeta had a new uniform. Goku now has his brand new dogi, which is the complete orange one with the blue wristbands and everything. It looks cool and it also just makes things seem fresh. More new stuff is definitely a good thing. I'm not opposed to it. I think it's really cool. However, I think it would be really awesome if he could somehow sort of honor all of his different martial arts masters by having like a symbol from each all over it. You know, basically now it's just Whis' symbol, but I'd like to see the return of the classic one on the back and maybe a few of the others, just this way you can see this is how many places this guy has trained with. All of these different deities and gods. This is why he's the greatest martial artist in the galaxy. But maybe he's not the greatest martial artist in the galaxy. This episode hints that Vegeta might be more powerful than he is, and I'm kind of convinced gist of that, considering that his weights were double the weight of what Goku was lifting. So we're just going to have to wait and see. We might need to see them actually fight against each other. So I was pretty entranced by this episode of Dragon Ball Super. I thought it had really good pacing, lots of funny moments, some intense training sequences. Goku and Vegeta are back and they're really, really funny together. Whis is a really great master. Freaking the Frieza army's coming back. Champa and Vados. And Beerus. Beerus didn't even say a word this episode, but he still had so much character to him, even though he was sleeping the entire time. And he also happened to be kind of scary at the same time. He's a really interesting character, and so was this episode. Just a fantastic episode of Dragon Ball Super. My favorite episode so far. 5 out of 5. I can't wait to see where they're going to go from here, so make sure to check it out, Dragon Ball fans. But if you watched this week's episode of Dragon Ball Super, please tell me what you thought about it in the comment section below. What do you think of the training that Goku and Vegeta are having to go through? Do you think that Vegeta is actually more powerful than Goku right now? I think that would be pretty crazy. Are you excited for the return of Frieza? And what's up with Champa and Vados? Why is Vados the one destroying the planets? And make sure to tell me what you want to see from the rest of the brand new anime series, Dragon Ball Super. Thank you guys for watching this review. Make sure to like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby!